My name is Juan Francisco, and I'm a psychic medium and tarot card reader. I've always been curious about the supernatural, the paranormal, and psychic abilities, and I'm here to share my stories and interview folks who want to share their own stories with us. Let's get to it. Well, we are off to an interesting start because I just recorded 3 minutes of this new episode, 2 to 3 minutes, and I was just shown by my computer that it wasn't recording. So it was malfunctioning. Even though I told it to record, it malfunctioned. So let's start this again. Not that you ever would have noticed that because you're listening to this for the first time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Third Eyesight Podcast. This is the penultimate episode of the 2024 season because there will be one more episode in 2024 for 2024 in the next week. And it's going to be about the top 3 things I've learned as a psychic medium, as a human being in 2024. It'll be a little bit emotional for me, and it's going to tug at some heartstrings, and you're going to have to wait to see what's in it and what those top 3 things are. But what I want to address in today's episode is medication and psychic abilities. This is directly inspired by friend of the podcast, Haley B., who hosts Opening the Door podcast. She had an episode on August 14th. It's episode 102 called Do My Medications Interfere with My Psychic Abilities? I'm going to read you the episode description. An emphatic all caps with exclamation mark, no. In the solo episode, I answer the question, do my anxiety/depression medication interfere with my ability to receive information from spirit? The short answer is, all caps, no. If you want to hear me talk about why, this episode is for you. I talk about how hormonal birth control, anxiety medication, depression medications do not interfere with your ability to connect to spirit, and how New Age purity culture has made some people believe the opposite. So that is Haley's podcast description for that episode. And I want to provide my own opinion on this topic of medication and psychic abilities and intuition. And my own opinion is the same as Haley's. And I want to talk about it. And I want to thank Haley indirectly here for inspiring this topic. I think it's important. I think it's still taboo in many circles in the psychic world. And I think that it's getting better as a topic. It's getting better and easier to talk about it within psychic world and New Age. You know, I don't love that phrase, New Age world, but I don't know what else to call it either. Because people are opening up more about their mental health struggles and their personal struggles and their traumas, and we're becoming more open about discussing these things. I think by way of that, talking about the medications we may be on is becoming less taboo to talk about that. So I just want to first say at the top of this episode, I am not a medical professional, never went to medical school. I'm not a psychologist or a counselor or a therapist. I go to therapy. I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I grew up with it, and it probably started for me at the age of between 8 and 10 years old. It might be related to some childhood traumas or some things that I heard or went through as a child. I'm not really sure. But it started when I started counting to the number 5, and then sometimes the number 3, 7, and 12. And I would count until something felt right. I would count the amount of time, the seconds it would take for me to sit in a chair. I would count the number of times in high school that I would check my math paper front and back. 1, 2, 3. I felt crazy, and it was very, very stressful, and it felt debilitating, mentally debilitating. I felt crazy. And this continued into college years, and I started seeing a therapist who helped me realize that I don't have to wash my hands 3 times after I touch raw chicken because I'm not going to die if I just wash my hands once. I would freak out a lot over cleanliness, and it was a fear of death, dying from something that I can catch. And by the time COVID came around, I had been for a few years, fine and not washing my hands compulsively. Although the skin on my hands still, I think I have a type of eczema or dermatitis because my hands have not recovered from the amount of times I used to wash them in high school. And so I have to be very careful with what I wash my hands these days. It has to be a certain type of soap. That's what my OCD did to my body, to my hands. And I was just about to say, by the time COVID came around, now everyone's washing their hands all the time. I'm like, oh crap! Now I gotta wash my hands, and I still had to use a certain type of soap, and it was quite a time to be alive as someone with OCD who struggled with germophobia during just living with that, but during COVID. And I was definitely very, very protective of myself during COVID. I tried to be. So why am I mentioning this? Because I have what many would call a mental disorder. And I have lived with it most of my life now. And it does not inhibit my ability to intuit, to be a psychic, to be a medium, to connect with spirit for somebody. But that doesn't mean that medication would do the opposite. Or that, rather, let me rephrase that, the medication would inhibit it if I were to go on medication. When I saw my first really, really good therapist, I remember her so well when I lived in Miami. And she told me at the first session that for people who, as severe as I am with my OCD, that she usually says medication is the way. It's the best thing that's going to help you. And I was very adamant. I said, no, I don't want to go on it, because I grew up in a culture, in a family that believed that if you go on medication for your mental health, then there's like you're depending on pills, and that's not good for your body. Pills are not good for your body, and the pharmaceutical companies, all things that are very true to an extent. There is a lot of money behind medication, a lot of money behind pharmaceuticals. So I didn't go on medication, and I told her, give me a month. And in a month, I started improving. But I kept going back and forth, improving, not improving, improving, not improving. Looking back, do I wish I had gone on medication? No, because I was able to get through it. But for some people, medication is the best way to get peace, to work through something. And as someone told me, I think that therapist told me, as well as my current therapist, when I've considered medication again, said, the medication is not to get rid of your OCD or get rid of your anxiety. It's supposed to help you cope while you're managing the anxiety. It's supposed to help you just like slow things down so you can move through the anxiety and get yourself out of those anxious moments. And I thought that was such a great way to put it. And I think that when it comes to someone's happiness and quality of life, that's the thing. My quality of life is the number one thing that I want for myself and the people I love. And why should I take that away from somebody because I think medication is going to inhibit their spirituality? Doesn't make any sense. Not to me. Now, do I understand people's point of view when they said that it does inhibit it? Yes, I understand the point of view, but I don't really agree with it. And I think that another example, this is not very directly related, but sort of. For a long time, I was very resistant to going on the drug PrEP, which is an HIV preventative drug. So if someone is sexually active or someone just wants to take it just because, just as a precaution in case they do get intimate with somebody, you can take HIV preventative PrEP to I think it's above 96%. Please don't quote me. I have not looked this up, but I know that it is very, very effective and very rarely not effective against preventing HIV infection if you have sex with somebody who is not on their medication and has detectable HIV. Because if someone is undetectable because they're on their medication as someone with HIV, they cannot transmit HIV to you. But in the case that you are with somebody intimately whose HIV can be transmitted, it is very, very likely you can prevent that from taking PrEP every day. And I believe there's a shot now. But anyways, I was very resistant to it, but then I got on it a couple years ago, 1 or 2 years ago, and I don't regret it at all. And it gives me that peace of mind that I'm not going to contract a chronic illness. And it doesn't mean that HIV is it's not a death sentence. It's not a dooming illness. It's a chronic illness you have to keep up with, or rather you have to take care of constantly. And I know many people who live with HIV, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that it's something I still personally want to contract. But if I were to, it'd be manageable. But with something like PrEP, I may not have to worry about contracting it at all. And I've made that decision for myself and my body to do that. And I'm happy with that. It gives me a quality of life because my mental stress, it's way less because I am on PrEP. So when it comes to anxiety medication or stress medication, birth control, I'm going to use this example. There are people who say you shouldn't eat meat if you're a psychic medium because it takes away power from your intuition. Or you shouldn't have soda. Or you should only eat plant-based. You should, if you're going to eat, if you can eat whatever you want, then don't eat a burger. Don't eat chips. Well, I love burgers. And I've been eating burgers a lot since I first discovered my abilities in 2021. And I don't pretend to be the best medium out there. I don't pretend to be the most attuned and the most connected. Not at all. But I'm very pleased with the readings I've provided to people, both practice for free in circles, in mediumship practice circles, or in one-on-one booked readings, or in group settings as well. I'm happy with it. And I've been eating burgers once or twice a week. So, and I don't really want to keep eating burgers once or twice a week, but that is the reality up until this point. So, I feel very comfortable saying that this is weird to say out loud, but I am a good psychic medium, and I eat burgers. I eat meat. I like potato chips. I will take medication to help me get through a cold. I do these things to take care of myself because that's what I want for myself. There are days when I'm in a really bad mood and I don't want to do a reading, or something really tragic happened. Now, if I'm in a bad mood, I can work through that. But if something really tragic has happened in my life, God forbid, I may tell a client, today's not the best day for me to give you a reading because there's an emergency or an urgency in my life, and it's not going to let me be my best for you. That's a way of taking care of myself. And I believe it's the same way with medications that help you take care of yourself. I find it very puritanical, and Haley used purity culture, the purity new age culture, I'm paraphrasing, in her podcast description. I find it very puritanical to say, you can be a good psychic medium except if you do this. Like, who are you to say that? And I also have this hot take. Humans can do a lot of bad things, and humans can create a lot of bad things. But when humans create things that help people live a happy life, help people get through the day, I call that a miracle from God. I believe God works through humans to find cures for sicknesses, to find ways of maintaining peace in a country. I believe God works through good. I believe that. So why can't medications be a miracle, be considered a miracle? I think the divine works through the human touch and works through human inventions. And this is the thing, is we are given these inventions. We could do good with them or bad with them. You can over-medicate somebody. That is very possible. You can give somebody a medication they really don't need, but you're just going to push it on them. That's possible too. These things are not inherently evil and bad. It's what we do with them that matters. We can abuse a drug. We can abuse food. We can overeat. We can drink too much alcohol. We can not get enough nutrients from certain types of foods because we're focusing on other types of foods because of a diet that is popular that we're on right now. We can do good or bad with whatever is at our disposal. And when people are doing something good for their own body and health and mental health, who are we to judge them and tell them, well, you're not as connected? Last time I checked, I believe that the universe God is all-powerful and unconditionally loving, and there's no exception for people who take medication. Now you may say, well, Juan, it's not about unconditional love. It's about how we connect with the spirit world. Well, the spirit world, I think, functions on love. Love is the fuel. So why would they restrict? And now I'm going to present another devil's advocate question. You may also be asking, well, Juan, they are trying to connect, but you can't connect with them because you're on this medication. Well, you can say that about anything. Why is medication the one boogeyman that we're talking about here? Why can't it be your really bad mood? Why can't it be the fact that you just had a fight with a friend? Maybe that's preventing you from connecting. Maybe it's that you are working from the ego and you just want to make a lot of money and you don't really care about healing or helping people to heal, helping people to start their healing journeys or continue on their healing journeys. Those things can also prevent you from connecting clearly with spirit, because then you're going to have I hate to use this word, but I can't think of another word, contaminated channel, contaminated message, because it's so based in your ego and your ego gets in the way. Whereas with anxiety medication, based on my understanding, and I'm not a doctor or a psychologist, based on my understanding, what medication can do for something like anxiety, I'll speak for myself. I know that for me, when I'm in fight or flight mode, my ego flares up when I'm in fight or flight mode. Anxiety medication, based on what I've been told when I've asked about it with my doctor, is the basis of it is that it would help me to quiet that fight or flight and make a more calculated decision as to what to do next when I'm in that moment of trouble or anxiety. So if anything, maybe it helps you. Maybe it helps to quiet the ego when you're doing a reading if you are someone who needs medication because you have a something chemical going on when it comes to your anxiety or your stress or a learning disability, whatever it may be. Maybe it will help you with your readings. I've actually heard that before, anecdotally, that there are people I know who being on medication has helped make their readings stronger. I heard this on another podcast, and they had this podcast, I think it was Mediumship Matters of Hannah McIntyre, which, surprise, surprise, I mention her all the time. But I believe she had an episode where someone asked about medication in a Q&A, and she said that she's met people who say, yeah, my readings have gotten better since I've gone on the anxiety medication that I need. That makes total sense to me. It quiets your mind. And so there's not that monkey brain or that chatter from the ego that's like, oh, you think this is real? You don't think this is real? Well, maybe you're fake. Maybe you're just faking it all. Instead, it's quieted down because of the help of whatever medication it is. So I think there is just so much judgment. Look, I bet we can just randomly pick any person who's judgmental about medication and psychic abilities. Just find them on Instagram, find a group of them, then randomly pick one of them and then ask, are all your clothes made in China? Are they made in Vietnam and Indonesia? Do you eat burgers? Do you drive a car that uses gas? Do you cut your grass on your lawn? Because it's not natural to cut grass on a lawn. You should just let it grow naturally. There's so many ways we could judge people that we don't need to judge them. What I'm trying to say is, I think, what's that Bible verse? May he who cast the first stone be without sin. Like, who are we to judge? Well, I sound so Christian. Oh my gosh, this is bringing me back to my Christian days. I'm not saying it's torturous. Look, the Bible is the Bible. I'm just quoting a Bible verse is something I don't often do, and that brings me way back to my born again Christian days. I had to pause there. But for real though, why should we be judging people? There is something we can all be judged for. You can be the most progressive, most empathetic person in the world, and you're still doing something that someone else thinks is evil or bad or against some kind of cause that is important to them. So when it comes to medication, we should just chill. Take a chill pill, no pun intended. Like, there's no need to judge each other because some of us are taking medication. Now, for the record, I'm not taking medication. I don't feel like in this phase of my life I need it. There was a phase where I felt like I needed it, and I didn't take it then. But I'm okay today with how I deal with my anxiety and my ego and the fight or flight. But I'm not going to judge somebody because they need medication to live a quality, like a quality of life. That's all humans, that's all we want, is to be able to live the best quality of life that we can on this planet, and hope that the people that come after us, or the people that came before us, our parents who are older, and our children, our grandchildren, our nieces and nephews, that they have a quality of life too. Why would we restrict ourselves and other people from that? So that's my opinion. Pretty much the exact same as Haley B's on Opening the Door podcast. But I thought it was a very important thing for me to talk about, because as I'm planning content for 2025 for the podcast and for social media, I want to talk about the very human things related to psychic abilities and mediumship. Because at the end of the day, we are humans. We are humans who are sometimes born with sicknesses, sometimes born with disorders or different types of abilities. We're born with, or born into, families that are not very nice, families that are really loving, families that discourage us from pursuing our dreams, families that encourage us to be the best person we can be. We have all kinds of experiences that we are born with and born into, and we have to honor that. And I want to hit on more of those things in 2025. So this was I wonder if any of this made sense, what I just recorded, but it was important for me to talk about it. So I hope that this inspires you to think about this topic. And if you have any opinions of your own that you'd like to share, please share them with me at my website contact page, or DM me on a social media site, Instagram, for example. And I want to hear what you have to say. And I'm always open to Q&As on this podcast. If you have a question for me to answer on the podcast, I would love to do that. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, beautiful rest of the week ahead. And if you celebrate the holidays in wherever you are, I know in the United States we have a holiday. It's Thanksgiving holiday. I personally don't celebrate Thanksgiving because of any pilgrims. I just like to eat. I just eat the food. I will not celebrate anything genocidal on Thanksgiving that happened in American history. I just want to eat the food with my family. So if you celebrate that, if you enjoy food and gathering with your family on Thanksgiving Day, and you celebrate the holidays coming ahead, I wish you a beautiful start to the holiday season. Like I said, this is the penultimate 2024 season episode. There is one more to come, but I just want to say you're probably preparing for the holiday season right now, and I wish you nothing but a beautiful holiday season ahead. And if it is a tough holiday season, please be gentle with yourself. Please give yourself that space to heal. Please love yourself even more. Thank you all. Love you all very much, and see you on the next episode. If you have a question or topic you want me to cover on Third Eyesight, head to my website, juanfranciscospirit.com/contact, and send a message my way. If you really enjoyed this episode, leave a review wherever you listen. I'd really appreciate it.